Hey guys, it's Matt with BleepinJeep. So you might be asking yourself, what is a finger press brake? Are we going to press your fingers until they break? No, not quite, thankfully. Today I'm going to show you what a finger press brake is, and then we're going to show you how to put this one together by Swag Off-Road. Stay tuned. So this thing here is a 20-ton Harbor Freight press, and inside of it I have a finger brake. Come over here, I'll show you how it works. So let's take a look at this up close. We've got the brake sitting inside the press. On the bottom here we've got this channel, so this is like a 90-degree piece of angle iron on the bottom, welded up with some bracing. And then on the top we've got these dies that come down, and the die is kind of pointed. It's angled and kind of sharp like a knife. On the sides we've got some springs that ride up and down on these posts, and up here we have these bolts, and at the top it's attached to the press. So when we put a piece of metal in here, there's a stop on the back side. You can adjust that however far you want it to be pressed in, so wherever you want that line to be, and then you just start cranking down on this thing. Kind of went further than 90 degrees on that, but you get the idea. A brake you can use to bend metal. If you want to bend it again, we can just stick in this side and do it all over again. So that's a typical brake. It's used for bending metal, but a typical brake has the top die all the way across the top. But a finger brake, these fingers are broken up into chunks, and parts of them are removable. So we have the longest one, then this one, a little shorter, and then a very tiny one. By unbolting these bolts at the top, you can rearrange these, slide them around, take them out, whatever you want. Now the reason you want to do that is for making brackets where you want to bend one piece but not the other. So let's do this one. I've got it cut down the middle here, and we can bend this side only without bending this side. There, check that out. Now depending on what you're building, that might come in really handy. So now that I've shown you how it works and the advantage of having a finger brake over a press brake, let's put one of these things together. So when you first unbox this, it's going to be pretty confusing as to where all these parts go, but the best thing to do is just lay it all out in order the way you think it's going to go. So there's the base plate, channel, so these two pieces that hold the fingers, then all the fingers, these rods go here, then the springs, the tubing, and then the backstop. Got the bolts, and then there's this little guy here, and these two pieces which are going to go over here. Some of the tools that you might need are angle grinder, a level, a hammer, some kind of square, and a welder. Now there are some pretty good instructions. I like to learn from watching those, so hopefully if you're like me, this video will help you out. So the first step is to put these posts inside of the hole. It doesn't really want to fit, so we're going to have to narrow that down a little bit. You could use the angle grinder, but I've got a tool that's even better. We only want it to fit halfway through the hole though, so don't take off too much. Once you get both pieces to fit in the holes pretty snug there and about halfway through the bottom, you want to square them up. So take your square and we're going to just give it some love taps until it looks pretty good. Now keep in mind you also want to square this way, which is impossible to do since this is in the way, but I found that if you take this piece here, set it over, then you can square it the opposite direction. And it looks like it needs to go that way. So once you get them squared up on both sides, go ahead and tack them into place. Check for square again, and then go ahead and weld them up. Then grind it smooth and make it look oh so pretty. Next we're just going to take these ears and weld them back in place on each side. What they do is just keep it from falling through the press. Just kind of hold it in place and give something for you to clamp it to. So this next bit is real important. These two pieces are the pieces that hold the fingers in place. And we need to weld this slide onto the bigger piece right here. But we need to weld it in line with the die right here. You don't want to weld it off to the side. You want to weld it right in the middle so that when it comes down, it fits right in the middle of the groove on the other side. So what you want to do is lay this out like this and line it up and tack it down before you weld it and make sure it's right in the middle. And before we weld this up permanently here, we need to put this on, make sure that it fits on the slides, and adjust accordingly. If it doesn't fit, either whack this around with the hammer or break those loose and adjust your tack welds. And when we go to weld on this side, it's pretty important that you don't get the welds too big, otherwise this piece won't fit on there. If you do, you'll just have to grind off the edge there to be able to make it fit. But you also don't want to put too much weld on the inside here, or your fingers won't go all the way up to the edge. There's about a 1/4 inch clearance on either side, but you don't want to go past that. Okay, once you get done welding, it should look something like this. If you got any slag on this part, make sure to knock that off and check and make sure that this still fits. If it doesn't, you'll need to grind a little bit of that weld away. In my case, I do. I went over by just a tad right there. You can also bevel the edges of this to give you more clearance. Now once you've got that bracket sitting flush, you can go ahead and move on to the next step, which is to weld these carriage bolts inside here. Now make sure you don't forget, because after this you won't be able to get back in here. Now level out your base. Once you get that, go ahead and take your angle and put it inside. And then you're going to make sure that that sits flush in there. Get it centered. And then make sure it's level as well. Once you got that where you want it, tack it in place on all four corners, and then you're going to stitch weld this thing. So we're going to do a couple inches at a time here and there. We don't want to get it too hot, which will warp the entire piece. Alright, once you get her welded, it should look something like that on both sides. Then you can go ahead and put the springs on there. And we can mount the stop. So the stop just goes on here. It's got some wing nuts on the bottom. And then another set of carriage bolts and wing nuts on the top here. So the slide backstop here is just to, if you're making multiple bends at the same angle, let's say you need to do 100 pieces, instead of marking them all, you can just set this up and you don't have to worry about taking a Sharpie to each one. Okay, now we can take the fingers and mount them in here. Put the biggest one in first, this one, these two, and I did that upside down. Okay, check it out. Put this on here. There's one more thing we need to do, and that is weld this collar to the center. And make sure you don't weld it on that back piece if you have the finger brake, because then you won't be able to unscrew it. So just weld it to that front thick part. Oh no! Oh, gotta turn the welder on. Ta-da! Okay guys and girls, if you enjoyed the video, please go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/BleepinJeep. There you can help feed my starving children. If you like this thing, I'll leave a link down below so you can check it out. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe. We'll see you next time.